Hey everybody, welcome to episode 24 of Two Guys, Zero Planners, brought to you by Pen. Head on over to penchalet.com, click on that radio podcast link, and unlock some great site-wide savings on your favorite brands by entering Two Guys, that's the number 2 guys, all one word, in that How You Heard About Us section. While you're there, take advantage of free shipping on orders over $50 and stock up on ink points that can be used towards a free bottle of ink. Thank you to Pen for sponsoring Two Guys, Zero Planners. So this week is going to be rather interesting. Same thing with next episode. Urban has decided to abandon me, but luckily for me, I've got a good sport, and that is Mr. Brad Dowdy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've gone from 8 crazy people to just one crazy person.
Well, you're going to talk about me like that, just like that, to my face?
Well, I figured that'd be the best way to do it.
Well, it's true. So,
I mean, especially since you complimented me and said I'm the sane one here. Thank you.
Exactly. I feel like a crazy person most of the time, but that's okay. It's kind of my MO. It gets me through the day. I'll take it.
Honestly, at this point, I consider anyone that has offspring to be crazy. So,
man, that's another podcast for your burgeoning podcast network right there. That's like 2 parents, no kids. Please don't have them.
I think that's something for Michael and Phil to do. I think I'll just stick with dogs and an apartment and call it good.
You should. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
That there certainly is. So you have been really busy this summer. So thank you for taking time out of your life to do this for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're a saint for putting up with my my scheduling runaround that I put you through. So, yeah, glad to do it.
Well, that's okay. I think Phil's going to kill me because normally Mondays are recording night for Philosophical.
Ah, nice. So I got to bump him?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, well, that's all I need. This is going to be epic then.
Sorry, yeah, you
Phil.
Completely got to bump off the tall guy. So, yeah, pretty much completely different than what BYOB was. So you're not going to be fielding a whole bunch of people that have been drinking way too much for the evening. But we are going to be talking through some really interesting listener questions. But before we get there, there were actually a couple things that were slightly topical that I wanted to bring up. Have you gotten your hands yet on the 2019 limited edition pilot, or is that something you have to keep mum?
I do not have to keep it mum if I did get it yet, and I do not have it yet. But if I did, I would tell you. And I'm pretty excited about this one. We'll just cut right to the chase. I'm probably not going to buy one. I have enough vanishing points. But this is what I expect from Pilot. Like me and Pilot, we have our moments, and they know I love them, and I'm a huge Pilot fan. I think it's pretty well known, but I'm willing to, call them out when I think they've done just less than stellar work. Kind of like last year's Vanishing Point. I don't even know the name of it. It was Cross Lines or something like that. I just call it the Burberry edition. And I just didn't like it. It was boring. Like, it's a perfectly fine pen. Like, nothing wrong with the pen. This is what I want, Crimson Sunrise is what I want. All these, gradient colors. And while make this pen like really stand out and bright. And they have a history of doing that, in the past 10 or 15 years. They didn't even have to do like crazy wild patterns, but they'll just do like a solid bright color, like an orange or a pink or a purple. Make it special. I can get a black and chrome pen anytime, right? So when I saw this, I was like, yes, good job, Pilot. Thank you for doing this. It looks great.
I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. Mm-hmm. Can one truly have enough vanishing points?
No, but like I'm at just like maximum capacity right now, just in pens overall. So I don't even know how many vanishing points I have, maybe 5. I don't know. It's not an egregious amount, but I also have lots of other pens too, right? So do I really need this? But like, this is going to be one of those things I'm going to see in person and go, yeah, that's pretty good. I will definitely get one to review. Right, but it may not be like my personal one or something like that. But I want to see this in hand, in person, see what the pattern looks like, see what the colors look like. Right now, I'm pretty positive about it.
I think right now the game plan for me, Ron's pretty good at taking neutral photos of the pens that he gets when he actually gets to take the photos. Mm-hmm. And when he gets stock photos, he's pretty good about letting you know, hey, this is a stock photo. Don't look at it. Mm-hmm. If this is the color, One, sign me up. Two, I'm picking up a broad nibbed stuff in there and then just part with the medium nib somewhere.
Yeah, I will say I don't know on the Pen Chalet picture if which category this falls in under. This looks better than like some of the other pictures I've seen. Like the other pictures look fantastic. This looks like even better color for me if I'm picking out like my personal color aesthetic. Like this blue just really, really pops, and it's gonna be good. This is like I said, this is like 2 or 3 editions ago when they would just sell out. Like Twilight would be gone in like a month and you couldn't find one. Like this is gonna be right up that alley.
Oh, yeah. And my money's already gone. It's like, well, so that purchase just happened without me even knowing it.
Yeah, I'd like to say you're worse than me, but, that's just not an accurate statement. It's just maybe for this particular pen. But I can't wait to see it in person. It's going to be great, I think.
I don't know, man. I've still held off on the Pilot 823.
I mean, I get that, right? I mean, that's admittedly not a pen for everyone as much as I rave about what that pen is and what it, can be for, a person who's interested in it. But like, I totally get not owning it. I shunned that pen for years. Like I thought it was ugly, honestly, because you could only get the amber barrel in the US. And I was like, that's just not my aesthetic. I don't care about the greatness of the filling system and the size and the weight and the nib and all that if I don't enjoy looking at it. So until I could get one from overseas, I held off myself. So I totally get that about the 823.
You kind of mentioned, like, especially with the amber one, the look of it kind of just being stay away, just meh. There's another thing on our notes here that's kind of a WTF moment. If you look at the Benu tattoo pen, I think Ed Hardy got drunk on some really, really bad Everclear and then fell asleep on his desk and put the pen in his mouth, and that's what came out.
I really want to see the backside of this cap, right? Because like the cap's delivering for me. Like if you're going to do this, right? If you're going to do this, the cap's delivering, but then we go full Hardy in the barrel, and the actual Benu logo on the cap band is throwing me for a loop a little bit. This is a interesting pen. I'll be the first to admit I've never owned a Benu pen. They've never spoken to me. Actually, in their traditional models, the grip section and the length and the way that whole thing works, it's never really worked for me. I'm at least cool with them trying some new styles and shapes. This one's not for me. But like I get it.
No.
Like I have seen people when I've like worked at pen shows for different retailers come up to like a tray of Benu pens and just be fascinated, blown away, and just like this is my pen. I'm like, cool. I'm glad you found something you like. Knock yourself out if that's your style and aesthetic. Get it. Like it's cool. This one's a lot. This one's a lot.
And it's a lot in the wrong way as well. I mean, it's still just an acrylic pen. And that price point is kind of like, okay.
Yeah, this is like double their base pens, right? I think so. Something around there.
Yeah, the Chameleons are 100, I think, 100, 110.
Yeah.
And right now that's the current high end. And it's like this pen is Benu's response to like the Chaos pen from years ago.
Don't dog out my Chaos pen, man. I'm gonna end up with one of those before I die. You just
I'm not saying the Chaos pen's a bad pen. I'm just saying this is a horrible attempt.
No, the Chaos pen's a bad pen, which makes it great. This is maybe not so much.
Now, okay, I think the Chaos pen's actually a beautiful looking pen. Yeah.
Until I actually held one and got to discuss with the owner of the pen about the pen, I got it like then, right? Before then it was just a mockery and a joke and just like a running gag. And then I got to see someone in person own one and got to hold it, feel it, got to understand, their perspective on why they buy it. And I was like, yeah, I get it, man. This is great. Like I like kind of turned the corner on the Chaos pen.
Yeah, I ran into mine at the Chicago show last year, and that's where it changed it for me. At first, I was like, okay, just standard joke pen. And like you said, when you see it in person, you actually see the owner and you get to hear the reason. It
Right.
changes a lot of things. And yeah, I like that Benu's making an attempt to do something that I was going to say looks normal, but I can't. No, I just can't.
No. Yeah, let's flip the script to the other one. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay. Talk away. What do you see in the Benu Supreme?
I'm in. Like, I don't know totally what it is. Like, there's been pens that are in this shape with this long taper barrel, like from, tip to tail. It's a constant taper and it looks pretty wide. Like, I'd want to check it in person. Like, the cap end is the wider end and it looks like it could be very wide, but I'd want to see it in person to kind of see. This I would at least consider, right? Where before in the past, the Benu pens have just been like, okay, it's not me, a lot of people like them, a lot of people dig them. It's never been like a good feel for me, like, physically or mentally. The Benu Supreme is at least them trying something different with some different materials. They're more subtle, right? It doesn't scream Benu pen like
right.
A lot of their other pens do. You go, oh, that's a Benu. Like, you can tell really quickly. This one, I don't know. There's something kind of grabbing me about it, especially, I don't know, all the colors are really neat and materials are a little bit more subdued. And this green opal one's kind of calling my name. I don't know. This is something I'd be interested in getting my hands on at least and say, hey, if I'm going to try a Benu, this looks like the one maybe for me, and let's see how we get along.
I'd have to see the section on it.
Mm-hmm.
But this pen reminds me of the fan model from Herbert Pen Company with a clip.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And slightly shorter. This is definitely a shorter version of that one because the fan capped is just shy of 6 inches, I believe, maybe
Gotcha.
right at it or a little bit over.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you here. The green opal is probably going to be my guilty pleasure pen.
Right. It's like, I look at this pen as like, I get this pen. Like, I understand you, Benu, where before I've been like, what is happening here, Benu pen?
I will say, I really like that they go with Schmidt for the nib.
Yeah.
I've never had a bad Schmidt.
I was thinking about that the other day. I actually reviewed Retro 51 Tornado fountain pen, the new model, since they switched over to Yovo, but previously they were Schmidt, and in the old model, that was the best thing about the pen. And I don't have many Schmidt nibs, and whenever I've had them, they've always been fine. They've always been like really nice and smooth right out the box, enjoyable. I think my Y Studio shipped with Schmidt when you get a new pen from them. So yeah, that's like, not many people use the Schmidt nibs, and they're pretty good. No complaints.
And I really think that's one of those things where, I mean, we're so used to Bach being Bach, and then Yovo being just, okay, it really comes down to what the person putting that nib on the pen is going to do with it.
Sure.
Schmidt, I think, is one of those, Schmidt's a designated hitter. I mean,
Sure.
to put it bluntly. Schmidt is the nib that you can put it on a pen and the pen's going to be beautiful.
Right.
And I wish the other two mainstays in nibs would hit that level.
Yeah, I mean, I get that from Yovo. They hit my sweet spot very nicely because they're firmer than the other two.
Yeah.
To me, their steel nibs are very firm, and at least in relation, probably to Schmidt, but definitely to Bach, they use far less tipping material, which suits my style of handwriting. The wider and wetter and broader, even in an extra fine nib with a lot of tipping on it, it's just not the best writing experience for the way I write. Doesn't mean it's not a good nib, but that's why I tend to lean towards Yovo, because they're firmer and finer in comparable nib widths.
See, and I like Yovo for the simple fact that in the hands of good nibsmith, I can have the juiciest, wettest broad nib on the face of the earth, and it's all about the ink at that point. And that's just one thing I love about it. I mean, when I can sit there and grab my Brooks Charleston and have it go head to head with my Nikaya, it's just like, oh my goodness, this nib is a dream.
Yeah, and you and I are on complete opposite sides of the nib size spectrum, right? The same thing goes for Yovo on my needle points, my micro architects, my fine cursive italics. I love steel nibs. Like, I mean, you know, with these Yovo steel nibs, I can just get all kinds of manipulation done, and I just swap them in and out of pens as I see fit and just go to town. I love them to death.
Remind me to never buy a used pen from you.
I'll just sell it to you without the nib. I'm okay with that. I'd rather keep my nib anyway, right?
That works.
That's the beauty of all these companies making all their specialty nibs.
It definitely is. So there's really only one more actual topic I want to hit before we go into the questions, because there's quite a few of them. Urban wanted me to bring up something in his absence, and that's that Nock is pulling out of the European market.
Yeah, so we're actually pulling out of all wholesale markets, U.S. or European. It's not strictly a regional thing. So we're basically bringing all of our sales back to direct sales from Nock directly from the website or from us in person in shows.
Oh.
And dropping out of the retail market completely. So it's not strictly a European thing at all, but it affects our European customers differently than our American customers, right? Because shipping and customs and fees and basically the unknown of shipping anything from the U.S. to not Canada, outside of the country. Like, Canada's pretty straightforward. Everywhere else, it's a crapshoot. And it's a struggle for any business to answer those questions because it's very expensive and it's very gray. There's like not a lot of black and white in international shipping. You click and you ship and you hope that everything works out well for you and the customer. So what the European market's going to get hit with is, we ship worldwide. Well, we've always shipped to Europe and Asia and Australia and everywhere around the world. And we still will. Like, that's not changing. But the benefit for our European customers when we've had European retailers like Nero's Notes and Cult Pens is, while they might pay a little bit of a premium price compared to like a dollar to dollar exchange rate price, they know that they're going to get faster, quicker, more guaranteed shipping. So their cost threshold is actually less and their risk is far less. I mean, not that they would never get their product. It just might take a month, or if the package gets lost, we'll have to resend it, on and on. You have a lot more delivery certainty with in-country companies. So we've talked about, like, I don't have an answer today of can we have some type of distribution or some other separate type of shipping for European customers and what that would even look like. But I will say that's like a consideration in my head as we move forward with the company. So just as we're kind of reworking things, like the rest of 2019 is going to be kind of a weird reboot, not rebranding, but just kind of rebuilding the story of the company that we kind of let get loose, in the past couple of years going to retail. Like, when you're a small maker like we are, we've always been really good at telling our own story. And like when we went to retail, it's like we kind of lost that a bit. You deal with retailers and they tell your story, and hopefully you gain lots of new customers. But you lose a little bit of what makes Nock. And we also, it was a whole other reasons we went to do it. Basically, it's inventory and money and like all the big ugly things like that. That was the main problem. But at its core, Nock is Jeff and myself. We like to make cool things. We like to innovate. We like to have fun and create lots of products. And we just let this retail experiment go on too long. And that just kind of tied our hands from being able to create as much, which that's what our customers want from us. So we're going to get back to that. And unfortunately, it affects some markets more than others, Europe being a primary example of that.
So my thought here, I've worked with you a couple times. I speak to you quite often on Slack when we can match schedules. I'm assuming that you put more than 2 seconds of thought into doing this. And you've already gone through the sustainability impacts and overall financial impacts on the bottom line that really strengthened your decision to do this. How much of a hit could you be anticipating here from pulling out completely from the wholesale and vendor side retail?
Sure. So it's definitely going to take a hit the remainder of this year. I don't know if maybe into the early next year. That part I don't have an answer for yet. But then I imagine things will start turning around and getting into some normalcy, like early 2020 type of time frame. That's just kind of my ballpark, the way I'm planning things out in my head. Like, we really haven't moved the needle on Knock in the past 6 months, like to feel confident in what we're doing. And probably starting in like September, October timeframe, things will hopefully start turning around and building up to kind of a fresh start getting into 2020. But yeah, we've got the hammer dropped on us earlier this year, and the decision leading up to the decision to make it, the decision pretty much made itself.
Right.
based on the numbers, and it was just like, okay, now I have to send the email. And it was not a rash decision whatsoever, but I think in the end it's going to be the right decision. I'm coming around to being being in a better place with it, right? Because it's like your baby, right? You create this business, and it's, like, I love it to death. I really love what Knock makes. Like, it is totally the thing that I want, like, a lot. And it's like, maybe I haven't been the best steward of that company and that brand and that story as I could have been over the past year, because, I wanted to get in retail and see how many cases we could sell. And, maybe that's not us. And sometimes it takes that punch in the gut to kind of figure that out. And, we'll just bounce back up off the mat and, take on the next challengers. And that's what we're looking at the rest of this year.
Well, I mean, it definitely sounds like it's going to be a new journey. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it's good or bad, neither of us knows at this point. I mean, you've got a better idea than anyone else, but that should be fun.
Yeah, I'll say I'm really excited, and I have a hell of a lot of work in front of me.
Sounds like
but that's okay. Like, that's the idea, right? It's like, I'm gonna fix this, and I can see it, right? Like, I can see it. Like, I know exactly what I want to do, but it's not going to come tomorrow, right? It's going to be a long, slow process, and I have to commit to it. And then we'll get there, and then off to the races again. So, I mean, the best thing, like, I keep telling myself is, like, we've been doing this for like 6 years now. Like, that's pretty good. Like, we have had our ups and downs, and, our fits and starts, and this is just another one of those bump in the roads. We'll figure it out. I love the product too much to just not put everything towards it, and then kind of right the ship a little bit, if you will. But yeah, it's all good. We're just going to be kind of slow probably the rest of this year, as we kind of have to just revamp how we've been working and kind of get back to how we used to work. And it's time with manufacturing, especially our type of manufacturing. It's very, very time restrictive. Like, it just takes a lot of time to turn things around. It's not a digital product that I can push out an update to, right?
Right. Just do me one favor.
Yeah.
Can we have more pen touching in the future of Knock?
Let me think. I mean, I could arrange something. I don't know that that's going to be on the top of the priority list. Let me think what other new products we got coming out. Yeah, not a lot of pen touching going on. Sorry, Yvgenii.
Aw. There's so many people on Slack who would be so happy with the pen touching.
Well, I mean, you just have to go to our Instagram for that and look at all the various challenges. I would be for more pen touching as long as there was less food touching. That would be okay by me. I'd make that trade.
I'll talk to Michael about that, but you know as well as I, there's no guarantees with him.
No guarantees. And
you've been on hypothetical. You know how it gets.
That's just the way I like it.
So, wow, that was a little bit inside baseball I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've known me long enough that if you ask me a question, that's what you're going to get. Sometimes I ramble too much, maybe say too much, but I think it's good to talk about one, and it's good to like have these conversations out in the open. Like, I don't really hide anything.
Right.
Like, in general, right? Just as a general rule of thumb, I'm not out there going, hey, let me tell you all my business. But if you ask me, like, I'm going to pretty much tell you.
Yeah, I mean, you're good people. I definitely respect it. And speaking of good people, let's get to some questions from some great people.
Oh man, I'm just looking at the list of names in this. This is like the superstar question series right here.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared. Let's start off with one that I think is actually going to help us mentally prepare for the rest.
All
so
right.
we're going to go all the way down to the next to last one. And it's the one from Eric.
All right.
So he's having some issues with purchasing, particularly price range. So his question, why is it that I have a terrible time bringing myself to purchase a $300 pen, but I'll spend $300 on multiple pens over a week and be okay with it? Is this, I mean, it's completely okay budget-wise. Money's not an issue. It's just the hurdle of dropping that amount in a single purchase.
Yeah, this is a great question, right? I mean, we've all lived through this probably. Like if you're, listening to this show, you're going, I relate to that, Eric, right there. I know what you're saying, Eric. I don't know when or exactly how, like I made that switch to where it was comfortable to spend like $100 or $150 on a pen, because that's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on a pen just from any logical standpoint, right? We understand that we do not make rational decisions when we're buying stationery. These are, non-necessity items.
You pull out anything above $20 and your coworkers start looking at you weird.
Absolutely. They're going, oh my God. And then if you told them, well, that pen costs $20, you might have to be, getting the paddles off the wall and, resuscitating them or something.
Oh, exactly.
And, but in the level of hobby that we're into, like you see this whole world that's opened up. And like I said, I don't know what made me or when I got comfortable spending that kind of money, because it was so foreign to me at first. But Eric, I did the same thing you did. Like, I mean, I would have like 3 Pilot Pereiras and 2 Twisbys before I'd even consider buying like a Lamy 2000 or a Pilot Vanishing Point. It was just because I didn't know what I wanted at the time. There's a discovery process that's going on. It's okay that you're kind of figuring this out now. I will tell you, in the long run, I've found to be a lot happier with the singular $300 pen than the $60 pens, just from like a usage perspective, right? That stack of pens is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like in the end, I figured out that I could get even more personal and figure out some weirder stuff, some really cool orange pen that I can't always get in the lower levels of pen, or some cool materials that really don't start at the price point where I can buy 5 of them in a week and be satisfied, but I could save up and not buy all these other pens and just really bring home the satisfaction of getting a even more personal pen or more personal experience when I bought the singular $300 pen. I don't know if that makes sense. There's not an answer to this question, and we've all gone through it, and it's so relatable. But I just think you will hit this transition point where it's just going to click and you go, I got it. And, you might not buy, the next Kaweco Sport that comes out, that you've already got 4 other ones, and you might not buy one for next week and the week after that and the week after that. And then you might find, oh, hey, look at this new Edison. That's a really cool pen. I like that filling system. It's really unique. I don't have anything like that. Check out that material. And you'll be like super happy. You'll be figuring out that going, hey, that $300 is maybe more well spent once every few months than on one pen than every week on 5 different pens.
I think, Eric, the one thing that Brad is kind of glossing over here, he may not remember when he made the transition, but if you go listen to his main show, The Pen Addict with Mike Hurley, And pay attention to the first 50, I think it's 50, maybe 60 episodes. You can hear the struggle.
Yeah.
You can hear that struggle evolving. And I'm trying to remember, because I don't have the podcast pulled up right now. It was either a sailor or a pilot that finally got you into your gold nib fountain pen territory.
Yeah, it was the black mat pilot vanishing point. I mean, I will never forget that pen.
Yeah.
Because it was like an episode, I want to say episode 10 was the I Hate Fountain Pens episode.
Let me see.
Something like
what's
that.
episode 10 here?
Well, I don't know. That'll even be in the description. I think just we had to go back and figure it out. Because at some point I said something, I don't know if that was the literal quote, but it was ballpark accurate, right? Is like it was either I'll never use fountain pen. It wasn't hate. It was like I'll never use fountain pens or something like that. And I think within the next 10 episodes, like I was done. I was in.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
so.
At that point you had officially fallen down the rabbit hole.
And then like we went like from Lamy Safari to like within about a year, I think to the Black Mat VP.
Mm-hmm. For me, it wasn't necessarily a purchase that got me okay with that price range, but it was a trade that got me okay with it. I traded two, I'm going to say low dollar in this situation, but they were about $175, $200 pens. And I was able to trade those and some cash for a Nikaya Piccolo cigar. No, it was the Decapod. It was Decapod Twist. And it was the one last year at Chicago. The only reason I was okay with it at the time was because, okay, I'm putting two other pens into it. But then I realized, wait a second, I just also put like $390 cash into this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not hesitate one bit. And then it clicked in my head. It's like, wait, this is all just psychological.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned right around and I'm ashamed. I'm very ashamed.
Yeah. And I guess one other point you made me kind of realize saying that is that the turning point came for me when I committed to myself, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'm going to use the pen, right? I'm not going to lay out that kind of cash to have a pen sit and be a museum object, right? So
exactly.
That's also a hesitancy of spending that much on an individual pen. You're like, well, what if I break it? What if I lose it? Right? Those are like real feelings and concerns you should have. But I got to a point where I'm going to take, I decided before I bought a Nikaya, my first one, that I'm going to put it in my pocket and I'm going to walk up the house with it. And that's the way it's going to be. And then ever since then, it's just been clear sailing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I went from having a collection of 40 much less expensive fountain pens to there were insinuating circumstances that caused me to have to sell off quite a bit of my collection. That insinuating circumstance is laying down on the bed behind me. But I got the collection down to like 8 pens at that point. And now, even though I'm running a review channel on YouTube, I only have 6 pens.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. When you finally cross that threshold and you start thinking about the actual impact that this writing utensil is going to have on your life, because it becomes part of your life. When you spend that much money, you actually start thinking, is this nib actually writing in such a way that I can use it for hours on end? And it becomes a part of you. And each of those 6 pens has made that, they've passed that test to where they are actually they're an extension of me. They are a part of my personality. And they are pens that I actually have a hard time deciding in the morning which one gets to go to work with me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Eric, when you cross that threshold, you'll wonder why you were hesitant in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not alone. We all kind of go through it.
We really do. Some of the other questions are a little bit more podcast related. So we'll stick with pens for a second.
Sure.
Have you developed any thoughts on the new Vertex from Keras?
No, but I have one. So they sent them out to a bunch of bloggers, as you've seen on the internet. You have the internet, right?
I think so.
Okay, and they actually do a good job of kind of like, sending out previews and literature and products and things like that.
Yeah.
So it just came at a super bad time for me, timing wise, just between travel and stuff. So it's sat on my desk for like 3 weeks now. But of course, the moment I got it, I popped it open. And the first thing you'll notice, like if you see in some of the reviews, is the slide aluminum case that they put in. It's pretty cool. But what the pen itself is, you pick it up and it's a small-ish pen. Like it doesn't seem like a full-size pen. It's a little bit bigger and longer than like a Kaweco Sport.
Right.
But it's really well made and it looks cool, and the cap goes click on it. Like it doesn't have any threads. Like it made me smile when I uncapped it and then put it back in. There's a little click. And I was like, you don't expect that from a plastic on plastic unthreaded pen. So the shape and the fit and finish all look great. I haven't put it through the ringer. They did send me, and I don't know if this is how the sale of the pen's going to be, but like they sent me like 3 different color grip sections as well as the one that was installed on it. So you can play around with that, which I think is kind of a cool feature if that comes with it, or if they just sent that out for the review ones.
That was more of a review thing. The website's got it set up to where you pick either the white Delrin, black Delrin, or whatever acrylic they're doing at the time.
Gotcha.
And then you pick the section that you get.
Okay, cool. But the material's great. It looks great. I'll definitely review it probably this month. It's just one of those things where I just haven't had enough time to spend with it. If you want my quick comparison review, I don't know if this would matter to anyone, but Karas has done the Decograph, which was their full-length acrylic type fountain pen, and now they've done the Vertex. Just having both of those pens, if you said, Brad, those are the only 2 pens in the world, you need to pick one to use for the rest of your days, I would pick the Decograph. But I seem to be kind of an outlier. I really like the Decograph. But I'm also saying this not having put the Vertex through the ringer, but I really like what I'm seeing so far out of the Vertex in just my little manipulations around my desk.
Yeah, there's a non-zero chance I'll probably pick up a Vertex probably like in the next month and a half. Phil and I were talking about it, and he's going to end up getting one, and his may make a pit stop by me, so I can go ahead and do what I did with Pen BBS thing a while back.
Yeah, and this size pen is my jam, right? Like I'm the pocket pen guy, even though, do they even call this a pocket pen like in their marketing or literature? Probably not. But it's kind of close, right? It's that same general idea of pen style that Brad enjoys thoroughly. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. And just like I said, looking at it, it feels like really, really solid. It looks good.
Yes. The Vertex's basic design is that of a classic eyedropper pocket fountain pen.
There you go.
Yep. It's within the first 5 sentences, so they're calling it a pocket pen.
Yep. So that's like, attention, Brad, new pocket pen. Like I'm using the Kaweco Sport, the Steel Sport right now. Like I don't know what it is about these stinking pocket pens. I have too many of them.
Yeah, you say too many, and I'm going to call you out on it again, man. I'm not going to let you get away with saying too many.
I know. I can't compare to a guy that's got 6 pens. Like I can't do it. I'd be happy if I got down to 60. I think that should be my goal.
Man, it is a very strict set of guidelines that each pen has to make. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, Nakaya Piccolo cigar, Heki Tamanori.
Yeah.
A Pelican Stone Garden, the M800 model.
Mm-hmm.
The Sailor Pro Gear Slim Graphite Lighthouse.
Oh, that's a good looking pen.
We'll talk about that. We'll actually talk about that here in a moment.
Okay.
The Brooks Carolina Pen Company Charleston model in his red and black primary manipulation. Very beautiful pen. A Newton Townsend and a Atelier Lusso. I believe he calls it a Carina. So I've got 3 custom pens and 3 mainline pens.
Mm-hmm.
But those were the only 6 that met all of my requirements. So, yeah.
That's great. That's awesome.
The Pro Gear Slim. Let's circle back to that.
Sure.
No one got that gray color right in the press photos.
That's my issue. Because I was like, this looks cool. I'm not going to buy this. And then actually, when I've seen this one in person, I was going, maybe I should have bought that one. I kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody could have actually got the gunmetal gray color correct in the press photos, it would have been much better for the pen.
Yeah.
Other than that, they hit it out of the park. Those finials are just beautiful.
Yep. So that's one that I look at now and go, yeah, that's better than I thought it was.
Yeah, you should really pick one up.
Yeah. Whereas the Epinard, the pictures I'm seeing that are like real life pictures, I'm going, maybe not so much.
Yeah. It looks like a cucumber.
Yeah. It's like, okay. So we'll see. Always buy in person if you can, because you never know. Pictures
exactly. That was the final turning point for the Stone Garden, because the online pictures I saw of that, it's like, Then I go to Pen Chalet, visit Ron, and he's like, "You want to take a look?" Yeah, I took a look, and I'm like, "Okay, go ahead, ring it up."
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does. It does. Oh, by the way, the Vertex is $130.
Okay, yeah, that totally feels like a $130 pen. Easily.
Yeah, especially with the customization that you get to do on the website itself. I mean, you've got 9 different grip sections to choose from. So
yeah, and I know a couple of the reviews have dropped by the time everyone will have listened to this, and I've just got them queued up to go read. I just hadn't had time to read them yet, but I'm positive it's going to do well for them. It looks great, feels great.
Cool. So, let's go completely non-podcast, but in a slightly tangential way.
All right.
Okay, you've got a podcast pup.
Mm-hmm.
So do I. I've got 2 of them. Have you ever had a pen/ink accident with said furry creature?
Once. And I didn't think it would happen. Like, this is not something. So my dog's name's Toby. He's a Bichon Poo. So he's a cute little fuzzy thing, little guy. And he's, as well behaved as any dog in a house is going to be behaved. He'll get into stuff that he's not supposed to sometimes, but generally he's not going to just go in and destroy your crap if you leave it laying around. I had a loaner Aurora Optima from Kenro. And it was, I forget the exact model name, but it was the one that was black and orange. Like they did a black and orange one.
Right.
This was like a couple years, like 2 years ago, something like that. So
yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. And so, that was my loaner pen, like for review and something like that. And so I had it inked up. I'm almost certain it was inked up with Aurora blue black. And, it's just sitting on my desk. Like, I'm not making any mistake. Like I didn't knock it on the floor and not realize it was there or what. And I walk outside the house and like our mailbox is like down the driveway. Like I live in the country. Like I can see the mailbox from my front door, but it's like 100 yards away. So I go out, walk down to the mail, grab the mail, come back, sit down and start to write again because I was already writing, and go to pick up the pen and it's not there. And I'm like, that's weird, because I was just writing with it, and check my shirt, check my pockets. Like, did I grab it and take it with me? Something like that. And then I look over, like around the side of the chair, like that I couldn't see directly. And there's Toby just looking at me with like the pen between his paws. So he had gotten up on the desk, which he's never done, stole a pen of mine, which he's never done, and put some bite marks into the piston filling mechanism.
Oh,
on the end of the pen. And I don't know what I was. I was confused. I was like, where did this even come from? Because like I leave so much crap laying around that he never touches for him to like actually get up on the desk. And of all things, to be a pen that's very expensive and on loan for me, to me, I was just like, oh no. So, yeah, that's the one and only time. Like he's never like messed with anything. Like, and there's stuff within his reach that he could get to a lot easier. What possessed him to do that? I still to this day don't know.
yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah. So to close that loop on the story, I had to fess up to Kenro. I was like, look, here's what happened. I'll buy this pen off of you, whatever. Like, that's my responsibility. And they were super nice. They're like, don't sweat it. We'll send it back to Aurora. They can replace that piece. No harm, no foul. Like it wasn't like, gnawed over, but there were like, a couple little dings in it. And, so they were super nice and taking care of that for me. But yeah, I was like having a panic attack. Thought I was about to own another new Aurora.
wow.
that I didn't need at the time.
Yeah, worst case scenario for me, I just Karma, my smaller whatever she is, she's a mutt.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going through cleaning pens and I had an open bottle of Colorverse Andromeda. So the pinkish one, but it was the special edition that had all the shimmer particles. And it was up on the counter. The dogs never get up on the counter. I've got 2 nanny cams triangulating the counter areas in my kitchen. And I'll check in on them for long periods of time when I'm at work. And they'll never get up on the counter. But this one time, Karma didn't just get her front paws up on the counter. She jumped all the way up onto the counter and honed in on that open bottle of Andromeda. I don't know what possessed me to leave it uncapped. But I came home to a pink dog. Yes. It was interesting. Dawn Dish Soap, if you're listening, I'll do a sponsor thing with you guys because your product worked great at removing fountain pen ink. And yeah, it took 4 baths to get all that stuff out.
Oh, I bet.
It was everywhere. The only part of her that did not get covered was her back left foot. Everything else, I don't know, because I didn't have the camera on at the time. Like once it, because of the job I have, I do have to flip off occasionally. And as soon as that started happening, I'm sitting there panicking because I'm at work, they're at home. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this isn't good. This isn't good. And then I have to go back to work.
That's the only thing I was thinking about while you're telling that is like, this wasn't like an accident. The dog jumped up, you're there, knocked over the bottle, got all messy. And, that's a huge enough problem as it is, but you're not there and this is happening. And oh my God.
And I still have 6 hours left in my workday.
Yeah.
And that day I have a short lunch period, so I can't make the trip home to check on things. Yeah, it was bad.
That is bad.
Yeah. Luckily for me, Bailey was a good girl and she stayed on the couch away from the mess. Because a 75-pound lab getting into that would have been horrible. A 55-pound mutt getting into it was bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, I had bad karma that day.
Yes, you did. You did. But hey, props to Bailey. Bailey's like, ooh, girl, you are in trouble. I must stay over here.
Bailey has always been the voice of reason between those two. So yes, Carissa, we have both had our moments with our puppers. It's interesting, to say the least. So, now we get to the rather interesting ones. Oh boy. Boy, do we. Let's go ahead and actually start with... Yeah, we'll finish with Alex's questions, because those are some pretty heavy hitters. Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead and do the 2 questions from Diana, the producer of the Nib section.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, we're going to swing back around the fountain pens really quick. How important would you say out-of-the-box nib experience is to you? Do you immediately deduct points from a fountain pen if it doesn't write well or won't write at all? Is it the responsibility of the manufacturer or the retailer to make sure that that out-of-the-box experience is a good one?
God, this is such a good question.
Yeah.
I've stared at this question, and Diana's awesome. She does such a good job. And yeah, I stare at this question a lot, and so here we go. Patented Brad Rambly answer. So let's take this as it goes. How important would you say the out of the box nib experience is to you? Very. Do you immediately deduct points from a fountain pen if it doesn't write well or won't write at all out of the box? No, but I should, right? So are we talking, this is the difficulty I have in giving a clear answer to this question. Are we talking about me as a person individually or me as reviewing the pen on the Pen Addict? Because I would answer those questions two different ways, right? So from my perspective, if I buy a pen, let's say Aurora Optima, because I just said it, and that's a very expensive pen.
Oh yeah.
The expectation would be that nib better be freaking perfect when I get it, because I just spent $500 or whatever it is on that pen, and that puppy better sing. And that's a completely fair stance. But if we're just talking me, so like if it's my pen, I would be, this nib is not quite right. But you know what? I know how to get that repaired. And also I'm very, very picky about that. Like if it is not right, I'm not going to put that on the manufacturer, unless it's obviously flawed, right? There's obvious issues that can take place. That's one thing.
Right.
But let's say I get a fine nib and it's just not writing how Brad wants that to write. Like I personally would not deduct points from that on a personal level, because I can say, well, I'm going to take this pen and make it specific to me. Like if I've invested that much in a pen, I want it to be perfect for me anyway. So I'm okay with that. The problem is that's really not a fair answer to this question. It should be more perfect out of the box in theory. So whose responsibility is it? I think it's on the manufacturer. Even though you're passing through a retailer, and that's probably where your first line of defense if you do have a problem, right? You're going to go back to the retailer. Mm-hmm. It should be on the manufacturer, and it is on the manufacturer, because now the retailer is going to go, hey, manufacturer, this nib is messed up. Send me a new nib, whatever. So I do think it's the responsibility of the manufacturer. I think if I'm reviewing the pen and out of the box it's a bad experience, it's immediately deduction of points. But it's all nuanced, right? It's like I'm coming from a place of experience. I'm coming from a place of pickiness, but I also have a job that reviews pens. So I would immediately deduct points if I was reviewing the pen. Whereas if I'm buying this pen personally, I kind of look at it a little bit differently. And is that fair or not? I don't know. I'm just saying that's kind of how it is. I will absolutely deduct points if I'm reviewing a pen and it is a bad out of the box experience, bar none.
I'm going to probably, we already know where I'm going to be coming from this. We've already talked about my super strict guidelines for keeping a pen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's 100%. If that nib is not perfect out of the box, the pen is not staying. Mm-hmm. The only reason a pen will get reviewed on the Inktwell is because it's scoring at least a 7 or higher. If a pen is going to score less than that, I don't feel that I can be objective enough about the pen to give you a good review. So it's not going to be on the channel. Mm-hmm. And if it's not good enough to be on the channel, it's definitely not good enough to be in my personal collection. Now, does that mean I'm going to be picky and I'm never going to have a Pilot Metropolitan? No, because I've had some really amazing writing Metropolitans. I just normally use those for pen abling. Mm-hmm. I'll pick one up, write with it for 2 weeks, and then it magically appears in the hands of somebody at work. And then next thing I know, they're asking me, what is this Lamy and how to get one? So yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Out of the box for me is just, it's everything. I know it probably shouldn't be, and I may be missing out on some good experiences because of that. But if it's from a mainline manufacturer and the retailer I bought it from is not willing to make good on an out of the box that was clearly a mistake.
Sure.
Like a nib where the tine slit is cut so all the tipping is on the right tine.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, manufacturer. Get it right. So unless the retailer can exercise warranty through whoever their wholesaler is, or whether the manufacturer is going to take care of it themselves, if there is any hesitation from either of those two avenues on a pen that doesn't come in the way the nib should, that's at that point, it's like, okay, well, the pen hasn't been inked. Here you go. It's going to be on its way back. I'll even go ahead and expedite the shipping for you so you can have it back in stock.
Yeah, let me add this and let me know what you think about it. And it's just one of these thoughts that I have. I almost find it more important for the out of the box writing experience to be better on the lower end pens than the higher end pens, because my concern is that someone's first experience is extremely positive because maybe the more experienced user can deal with it better, even though they shouldn't have to deal with it. Right? I understand it should not be an issue, but if you're going to spend, like, I want that Metropolitan to be perfect for whoever's picking that pen up. Whereas if back to my Optima purchase, my theoretical Optima purchase, if someone's making that, or if I'm making that, I'm not in a position, like, I'm not buying that for my first pen ever, right? Generally, right? Have a knowledge base and understanding of what the expectations are here and how to change it. But I'd be super concerned if someone's, Kaweco Classic bought their first fountain pen and it was a crappy experience because the nib sucked. Like, that would drive me bonkers. Like, I get super mental about that, where I wouldn't care if as much, even though it matters maybe more because of the price point. Like, if someone's Pelican nib was out of alignment a little bit, I don't know. That's just I don't know, the perspective I'm coming from. I really can feel for the beginners and want them to have such a good writing experience out of the box. It would be a huge I wouldn't steer them towards a brand that was known for having bad out of the box experiences for their first fountain pen experience.
Right. We're not going to set someone up with a Visconti Homo sapiens.
Right.
Because there's a good chance, there's at least a 40% chance that nib is going to need work. And not just minor adjustments, but major work.
Yeah, I do have my limits. That's why I've never owned one. As much as I like that pen, I just don't want to deal with it.
Exactly. And I do agree with you there. I mean, someone like yourself, someone like myself, we know the extra resources to where if a nib is 80% of the way there, we know, one, how to make the subtle adjustments ourselves. And two, if we do want it to go that extra little bit to just fill a certain gap in our pen usage, we know the people or the contacts or the timelines that it's going to take for that to happen. And yeah, I completely agree on a pen that your entry-level user is more likely to get. And that's pens going up to $100, because there are some entry-level people that are willing to spend up to $100 on their first pen.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Then yeah, that quality does need to be at least in the 95th percentile. I mean, it can be just a tad dry, or it could be just a tad too wet. But if it's hard starting every other sentence, or the tines are misaligned to where it's got one hell of a sweet spot, that's not good.
Yeah, why nib QC is not a higher priority for these companies, I don't understand. Because that's going to be the experience. It doesn't matter how beautiful the pen is. When the nib hits the paper and someone goes, that's weird, that changes everything.
Yeah. The second you say, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who's never used a fountain pen, because they can turn right around, pick up ballpoint X, and it starts working.
Yep.
And that's where fountain pen manufacturers need to realize you're not competing against each other. You're competing against a ballpoint.
Right. Right.
I mean, because at the end of the day, the one thing I love about fountain pens is I can pick up any pen, any ink, have fun. I'm not stuck with blue, black, or generic 8 colors that manufacturer X picks.
Yep.
So, Diana, I hope we answered your question.
That's such a good question. It's a really, really good question. And it's obviously we spent 5 or 10 minutes on it. It's not a straightforward answer. So like I have multiple answers to multiple parts of that question. It's wild.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one thing. This time around you're doing a lot more talking than the last time we worked together.
Well, there's fewer people to talk to this time.
That is true. So this next one also from Diana is kind of I like this question a lot because it hits close to home. So what skills / experience have you picked up podcasting that have carried over into other aspects of your life? I want to add a small caveat to this question.
Yeah.
How Mike Hurleyified have you become at this point?
Maybe a little bit, but this is such a smart question because I think about this a lot. And I don't know that I live up to this on a recording to recording basis. I don't know that I've lived up to it on this recording. But the one thing that I have learned and that I think about a lot is pacing and thinking, and that it's okay to have a pause and a thought and not be a machine gun when you're speaking, especially on a podcast, like when you're having a conversation, and being a better listener and trying, not to get every word in. And that did not come easy for me. It still doesn't come easy. I think about that before every show I don't go back and listen to our episode, so I don't know how many times I say, but that's the classic, inexperienced type of, little bit you get in the podcast when you start thinking too fast and your words can't keep up with your brain. So you start dropping ums in, and like, I'm super guilty of that. And we all are. It's just human nature, but learning to have a little bit of pace and a little bit of thoughtfulness in the words that you're saying, and that it's okay to take your time and just not have to rattle all these things off. And that translates into life too. Like, I think I've become a little bit of a better listener in life because of my talking on podcasts. Like, it's kind of everything slows down. But that's something I think about like every week when I'm doing a show, usually only after the show, going, boy, I really blasted through that segment and it could have used some more air, could have used some more oxygen in that segment than me just going, 100 miles an hour and just saying everything that comes to the tip of my tongue. So, so I'll shut up now and let this answer breathe.
One thing I've noticed about you over the years, at least, and it's kind of gone on to, at least in how you deal with us online when you are being the grand poobah of the Slack. You've gotten a lot more tactical about your decision making and a lot more methodical about your thought processes when it comes to dealing with others. And as an outsider, it's really apparent, especially like speaking with you almost a year and a half ago now to getting to do this again. I mean, because we interact quite a bit digitally, and yes, I've seen you go full firecracker Brad. I have. It's been fun. Fun with very big air quotes.
Right.
But yeah, that's one thing that for me, it wasn't podcasting that got me to that point either. Before podcasting, I used to work in the professional recording studio environment. So I wasn't working with the same people over and over again. My clients would change daily, weekly, occasionally monthly if they had a big enough budget. And the one thing I had to develop there, which has helped me, at least, with podcasting, is being very adept at picking your battles, learning how to pick them, and figuring out who you can trust to explode on and them not take offense, and knowing full well that you can apologize to them 5 minutes later and they know it's a heartfelt apology. So Andrew, Phil, Michael, I apologize for everything I have ever exploded on you guys for, but yes, you guys have seriously, In the recording studio, that was one of my second engineers, Christopher, great kid. And if we had a band that would come in and did the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle thing in our studio, I would do my best to not blow up. And then when it was over, Chris would look at me and he's like, dude, just say it. Just say it. You need to, you did good. You were professional. Go ahead, let it down. No one's around. You can do this. Those moments have gotten few and far between because I've learned as I'm not like just being completely upfront in the moment. I'm no longer heated in the moment. I'm able to de-rationalize my thoughts. And once I have taken the rationalization away from them, I can push them out. And Phil, Michael, and Andrew can attest to that. The explosions are much fewer and further between than they used to be back in the recording studio days. And BYOB was a big part of that because I wasn't getting to cycle clients every week. I was with the same people.
Yeah, that was good. But that's good. Like, we're still trying to figure this out, right? I mean, I've made mistakes in the past and I try to learn from them and realize that, certain things I've done in the past or the way, I've acted on Twitter are not the person that I want to be. And like, it's not healthy for me physically, mentally. It's not fun. I didn't enjoy being that person. So like I made the conscious effort to change. And it's a daily struggle and, you want to lose your cool sometimes. And
I think for that one, we actually had the same podcasting turning point. Baron Fig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's right around that time. End of, I remember it was end of 2017, something like that.
Yeah. It was episode 4. So that would be December of 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this is not the person I want to be. And made a change and dedicated my year, my 2018. I don't do like New Year's resolutions or things, but as a Cortex listener, I did 2018 was my year of positivity. And like my goal was like to check myself when I felt like I needed to be right or the biggest voice in the room or just some other, gross thing that I didn't want to be. Those are not enjoyable things to, undertake. As someone who lives a tiny public life online, like that is not what I want to be known for. I do not want to be that guy. And I made the conscious effort. And so, and it stuck, thankfully. That change is stuck. And that carries over into the personal life as well. So,
well,
yeah.
And that change hit you where you were just tangentially brought into it by us. And even though during the episode in question, I was backseat driver to that one. Like the steering wheel was actually in the back seat and all the people were in the front of the car just tossing beer bottles out the door. But like the Twitter apology, all that stuff, that was me and one other person I'm trying to remember who it was that actually helped me type those up.
Mm-hmm.
But after doing that damage control, because Joey didn't deserve any of the hate that he got.
Nope.
None at all. And I'm sitting there the entire time going, I should really cut the live stream. I should really cut the live stream. And I didn't. And the fact that I didn't step up and put a stop to it, that was the turning point for me. It's like, this is not something I want to put my name on. I don't want to put my name on blatant, outright anger and vitriol for the sake of dragging someone's product through the mud.
Right.
And that's what it was. It was a dumpster fire that, honestly, if anyone could have stopped it immediately, yes, it probably would have been a bad thing and probably would have caused a few fights internally. But hey, that's what hindsight's for.
Yep. We live and learn. So, I mean, that was a real turning point for me. Like, it changed my perspective completely. And I've been better off for it.
I'm still trying to figure out how to ask Joey to eventually do a podcast with me, because I'd like to pick his brain on a few things. Especially with doing manufacturing in New York. That's just, that entire market and lifestyle has to be a nightmare. Oh, wow. That was a little introspective there.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Diana. You are definitely a podcast producer and a journalist at that.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she is. Let's go ahead and finish up on some more interesting, borderline lighthearted, but definitely thoughtful questions from Alex, doing what he does best here. These
are the hard questions. Like, yeah. I can spill my guts all day long. Like, I'm okay with that. Alex is bringing the heat here. Like, these are my nightmare questions. Like, I don't know how to answer these questions.
Okay. Well, we'll go top to bottom then. If you could spin up a new podcast, what genre would it be? So documentary, two dudes talking, fictional storytelling, all that good stuff. And what topics would you cover?
So this is the one I have an answer to. And this is where all of your listeners are going to end the show. Once I say that I have this idea for a baseball storytelling podcast. And I have like notes on it, and I haven't done like any prep work, but I know the story I want to tell. And the further away I get from the time frame that this takes place, which is like 5 years ago, the more I worried about like, boy, it's getting away. But I mean, do you want me to go like into super nerdy specifics? Like, but it's a baseball podcast, but it's a highly specific one. And I've kind of alluded to this somewhere in the past. I know I've said these words out loud, but do you want me to get into just like the premise a little bit?
This is Two Guys, Zero Planners. We plan for nothing and do everything.
So there was this podcast called the Up and In podcast. And like I say, I'm guessing maybe 5 years ago, and it stopped for good reason. But it was started by basically two guys. One was a baseball minor league prospect analyst, and the other guy was a scout for, amateur and professional baseball minor league. So they started the show, and I'd known one of them for years and years online, just being a baseball fan that I am. So, and he's a really abnormal character for what baseball is used to. Like, he's into punk rock and like just wild and like kind of crazy stuff, like real outlierish type of stuff.
So he's a Chicago White Sox fan.
Well, he's from Chicago. Oh. So he's into but he's not a White Sox fan. So he was into like the Chicago punk scene. So they'd have like, they do their baseball talk, and then they talk to musicians, and they always had like Chicago punk like playing. They like interviewed Steve Albini one episode. Like, this is really interesting mix of guests on this podcast. But what he was really good at was player analysis for baseball. And then the guy that was a scout, he's out in the field, and they're like basically, talking about minor league baseball and what they see. So long story short, this podcast runs about 100 episodes because the main guy the guy who was the prospect writer and analyst, gets hired by the Houston Astros. And the other guy, the scout, gets hired, I forget who by Texas Rangers, I think. And the guy, his name's Kevin Goldstein. I'll stop calling him the guy. That got hired by the Astros. They went on to win the World Series 3 years later after he left the show, with a lot of his player development work in there. And then the other guy, Jason Parks, ended up being the head of player development for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they came from, like, I won't say nothing. Like, they had online reputations for what they are. So, like, I want to tell the story. I want to go back and listen to every episode of this podcast, because they discovered players before, like, the internet and the world knew about these players. And then they took that from just this nerdy podcast into, like, front offices of Major League Baseball teams. And in the case of one of them, ended up winning a World Series and played a huge role in that. It's just this wild story that I can't get out of my head. And so, like, I want to kind of go back and replay that, interview them. Like, that's my dream scenario, is like to have a re-listen, tell the story, kind of narrative base, get interviews with these guys, and kind of just go through that. So, like, that's my, in my pocket, when I ever have time, dream show to, like, produce.
Okay. So you want to, no, I mean, that's
so now
actually
it's just
a
me
really
and you
good
talking.
premise.
No one's listening anymore. We can just talk amongst ourselves now.
Well, you think that. I actually went ahead, because you never listened to past episodes. I've already gone ahead and cut the last, like, 30 minutes. And this is the first question of the Q&A.
Nice.
No, I wouldn't do that. This is too much gold. Honestly, if I was going to spin up a podcast, I would actually bring back my first podcast I ever did with one of my friends. And it was called Through the Drunken Glass.
Mm.
And every other week, we would go pick up a new scotch. And we would do it in 3 ways. We would drink it neat, on the rocks, and as a double shot. And we would take 10 minutes in between each style of the scotch. And we would talk about recent politics or trends in music, because we were both musicians, me being a drummer, him being a guitar player. And we would also talk about life in general. And I miss having a show like that, where it's literally just you sitting down with your friend, having a good drink, and having a good conversation. And I'd like to start that back up. I really would.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not going back through and analyzing how 2 people, like, took their skill set and just ran with it. But yeah, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun doing that show. And I mean, as I sit here and sip on scotch while having a conversation.
Nice. Yeah, I keep hearing the bottle. Boop.
Yeah, that is... Now, I'm sipping from a shot glass, because I'm having to moderate my intake at the moment. So, hey, drink responsibly, people.
That's right. I'll let you down. I'm drinking water.
Well, hey, I didn't tell you to grab some kind of booze before this show.
Dude, I drank coffee before the show, even at this hour, just because it's been that week. And it's only Monday.
Dude, I just got some, Rooster Teeth Entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
The people who did Red vs. Blue?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a YouTube show that's part of them called Achievement Hunter, and they just made their own custom coffee.
So I am a King's Coast subscriber customer. So
you already have some of the Achieve?
Not the Achieve. I mix up between different roasts of theirs, but I haven't gotten that one since they just announced it in my subscription, like the monthly thing that I get. Like, I can change it, every month. So I haven't opted into that yet. But
my bag is sitting in the apartment office right now.
Nice. So yeah, that's who I use for my coffee right now is King's Coast.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to review that one because there's a trend on my YouTube channel. Turns out when you review a coffee from Linus Tech Tips that a lot of people will suddenly click onto your channel and they come for the coffee and stay for the fountain pens, apparently.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Another Alex question. Alex, I feel like you're punishing me for something. What is on your list for a podcast you want to be a guest on? And it doesn't have to be stationary related.
Yeah, I think this is the hard one, right? It's like, wow. It's like any podcast, anything, like when the whole world is an option, it's really hard to narrow it down. So I actually scrolled through my podcast list. Let's narrow this down, Brad, into like, okay, who are you a fan of? What are you listening to? Things like that. And I just kept coming back to one answer that I would like to be a guest on, and that's the Dave Chang Show. So if you're not familiar with him, he's a chef / entrepreneur / TV host, and he basically his show is just him like interviewing people, mostly restaurant business and entrepreneurs, but then he gets into like the art world and the music world, and he has just a really neat list of guests. And I would love to be on his show, but just like sitting and letting him like school me on food. Like we'd go like eat and have like a mini like food travel episode type of thing. Like that's what I'd want to be on Dave Chang's show. Not to talk about me or pens, but just so I could get schooled by Dave Chang on like some kind of awesome food.
Very good choice. Very good choice. Wow. Okay. So the first one is the podcast that Alan Alda is doing. He's one of the biggest reasons I got into performing arts in the first place.
Nice.
And his outlook on life has actually shaped my outlook on life quite a bit. And to be on a podcast with someone that has had that much influence would just be amazing.
Mm.
Just the amount of secondhand knowledge I think I would get from being a guest on that show would just be more than I could ever hope to have.
That's a really good answer. I like that.
Yeah. Alan Alda is just one of those things. It's like you put yourself in a situation where you can be near him long enough to get great nuggets of wisdom, and you take those the rest of your life because they're bound to be good. Now, the other three are kind of just throwaways. Not too much of throwaways, but they're kind of throwaways compared to that. And the first one is Cortex.
Mm-hmm.
I have listened to every episode the second it hits my podcast player. Just watching Mike and Gray rub off on each other over the last years has been an amazing roller coaster. And even if I was only on that podcast as a guest to be a fly on the wall, I would love to hear a non-edited version of their conversation. Because Gray does to Cortex and Hello Internet the same way I used to do to BYOB, or what I occasionally do to some of these shows, where I'll do 2 or 3 passes, and a lot could potentially get cut.
Mm-hmm.
This one, not so much. This is going to be a long episode. But I would love to be a fly on the wall for their conversations, even if I was a quote-unquote guest for the week. So that's another one. Then I would love to be on one of the episodes of whatever the Incomparable Game Show calls Balderdash. Oh my goodness. I can hear Steve mocking me in his voice now that I can't even remember the name. But yeah, just mainly because Tiff is one of the main guests for that show.
Mm-hmm.
And her personality is just over the top, but in a great way.
Right.
So I'd love to be a guest on a podcast, especially where you're having fun playing a game where you're making up just completely absurd definitions. That would just be an amazing hour to hour and a half of my life. And then the final podcast would actually be Hello Internet. Not for CGP Grey, but for Brady Heron.
Mm-hmm.
His journalism skills lead to a lot of things that get cut from that show. And I would love to be able to field questions from somebody who has been so heavily intertwined in like periodic videos, number file, working for the BBC of all places.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to immerse myself in that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's wild. That'd be cool.
And then if I wanted to just get completely drunk and do weird stuff, Joe Rogan. So yeah, there you go.
It's a good list.
Well, it's a list. I mean, after Alan, it's kind of they're all really just to help me build my personality and make me less of a social, awkward person.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. It's tough. Like this, I think that's why this community like gets along so well, because we're all kind of the same person on the inside, and then we're all trying to figure out how to be on the outside, and hopefully one day it'll all sync up for all of us.
I would hope so. I also need to get more personality points towards me, so I can figure out how to convince somebody to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the first time in their life. Michael. Wait, what?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently I'm going to see him in San Francisco, so I'll work. That's something I can work on.
Yeah, he has not seen Holy Grail, and he has not seen Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Like there's plenty of things that I haven't seen that someone would probably go, interesting. But like Michael, those wouldn't be the two that I'd pin on him.
Yeah. I mean, and we told him a year and a half ago he needed to watch Holy Grail. Didn't do it. And then I found out 2 weeks ago that he hasn't seen Shawshank.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, of all things. I mentioned Andy Dufresne and he's like, who? So yeah, that needs to happen. I worry. You cannot live life only having watched Slapshot. Good movie, right, but not the only one you can watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's up his alley too. So I see where he's coming from.
It really is. I know you've answered this one at least once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
So me, since I remember those answers, I'm not going to tell you whether or not you're repeating anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be judging you if your answer has changed.
Mm.
So if you could create a pen show anywhere and anytime, where would you put it? When would you put it? And would it be large or small?
Yeah, this is a good question. And I have answered kind of, sort of, generally this type of question. The actually hardest thing here is the where, because it almost doesn't matter, right? Like I don't have I have the place and I'm going to say it, but it's not going to be, oh yeah, that's such a brilliant, oh yeah, Bali on, the island on the beach. Yeah, that's the perfect place for it. But it doesn't matter where this thing is that I want to do it. I just happen to think that Nashville would be a pretty damn good place for it. So that's my where. I think that's just kind of a good centrally loop. I've always thought about it in the U.S. primarily. I'd love for it to be in Japan. That I try to keep I take these answers to these what if questions a little bit more seriously than I should probably. Like I keep them in I take them more, what could realistically happen, as opposed to let's rent out the Tokyo Dome and just bring everyone there.
That would be amazing.
So I've always said the 3 cities in the U.S. that I think could support a pen show are Nashville, Austin, and Kansas City. You'll notice they're all somewhat centrally located. That's a thought consideration that I always have. And then they're all like cool towns where you can find stuff to do in them. And, I think that's key as well. They're kind of destination-y type of towns that have some cool vibes, good food, good atmosphere, things like that. When, boy, I don't know. That's another one that it doesn't, when doesn't necessarily matter. It would not be in the summer. I know that. Just because there's so much competition in the summer. Again, this is my logical brain thinking, right? People have other things to do in the summer. So probably spring, maybe fall, something like that. And then scope is the thing I struggle with, because what I want is the pen convention idea as opposed to the pen show idea, where it's more of an event, not a location to buy and sell or trade. And I don't know that that can ever happen in this industry, because my vision of it would be not on the scope of something like an E3, but to where you would have to have like manufacturers show up there to teach and educate and display and learn, allow people to learn about their products, and just have this real larger scale type of show. And the money it would take to like pull something like that off is enormous. But, you know, I would love to see like a 2-day show where you had like a show floor with mostly manufacturers. Like I've written about these types of things recently. Like you have Mont Blanc and Hobonichi across the aisle from each other, and fans of stationery can come and learn from these companies, see their products. It's not necessarily a buying and selling thing, but you can, you know, see what new products they're creating, see what their innovation is, see what their plans are for the future, and maybe see some of their history and, you know, why they are what they are. And separately from that, you have pretty much like 2 full days of classes, education, live events, whether it's, you know, podcasts or panels. And there's almost like no need for a selling floor, right? So it's almost like not a retail based show that I'm thinking of in my head. But then my thoughts always stop at money. Is like, who's going to pay for this, right? You know, a lot of these shows can go on because the vendors can come and they can, you know, the vendors are a draw, and rightfully so, but they're also doing it because they can make money and, you know, not lose money on taking a trip. So, you know, those are my general Pen Con ideas. I don't know that it's really a feasible thing. Like I can picture it in my head, but I can't picture like the dollars that it would take to do the thing that is in my head, right? It's a way different scale and scope than anything we have now. And it's limited by the industry involvement. Like this is not a thing they would normally do. Like say, just take Mont Blanc, for example, they're going to go to a trade show, right? They're not going to come to like either just like a pen show, like a retail type show, or maybe something like the Pen Con idea. They're going to what's the big one in Germany, like Paper X or whatever,
Right.
You know, these monster trade shows where they have these budgets and all this stuff and can put in there. And it's like, you know, they're taking orders from their retail clients at these times, you know. I just want I want a massive show and tell and like a good community vibe, and everyone can learn about all these cool companies, you know, from the big to the small. And, you know, the only problem is figuring out how to pay for it.
Okay. Yeah. The overhead alone. That's
it's enormous. Like like one of the things I discussed when I was talking about this was like, you know, the stationery industry doesn't have the companies with budgets like the video game industry that can spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, you know, traveling for what's essentially a marketing opportunity, right?
Right.
You know, these companies are not built like that in our industry. So how do you pull something like this off? I don't know, but those are the thoughts I have in my head.
Okay. So I would love to see that happen. That would be just an amazing trade show.
Right.
As long as the people dressed up like demonstrators actually wear underwear.
That's true.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yes. Phil, I expect to see you as a Con Giraffe very shortly.
That's perfect.
It really is. I was going to actually cross 2 worlds of nerddom together. I would have it in Indianapolis, right next to Gen Con, during Gen Con weekend. So in one exhibition center, you've got just a huge, just a huge comic convention. And in the other one, so probably like, honestly, you could hold them both in Lucas Oil Field. Like literally, you could, with how big that stadium is and with how segmented some of the press areas are, you could easily hold both in there and still have the multi-thousand person panels that you do for the Gen Con Comic Con experience. And the reason I want them both together is a lot of the people in that space are also the type of people that would really be into this fountain pen world that we have. They just need that initial dip.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I would pick Indianapolis out of all of them is Critical Role does one of their big live shows every year at Indy. So you've got people that are playing Dungeons and Dragons. You've got a stationary show. Character sheets. Stationary. Sounds like a perfect mesh. But it's just because really, I mean, let's be honest. I want to be able to experience full nerd for one weekend on both sides. So it's kind of a selfish thing. That and Indianapolis is a beautiful city.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live up in Peru, and we would go down to Indy every other weekend. It is just a beautiful city to go visit, hang out, just be a fly on the wall.
Got lots of pen friends there.
Yeah, and there's just so much to do there and so much history there that I think a pen convention there would have some of the same. I mean, it would be an extension of Chicago, really, if you think about it. I mean, because you've got so much history and life and things to do in Chicago during that pen show weekend that you can really overload yourself. And yeah, I think Indianapolis could actually be the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're kind of leaving the being central out of it, but really the central part of the country, the big cities in the central part are like Topeka, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Des Moines, whatever the two big cities in the Dakotas are. So it's the big empty. You really don't talk about cities in the center unless you're talking Albuquerque or Denver or Jackson, or on the east side of the big empty, Little Rock, Kansas City, St. Louis. So you've got this huge swath in the middle that no one goes to anyway. So putting a pen show there, you're not going to have a city big enough that would actually be able to support that. I mean, first and foremost, the Waffle House game would be atrocious.
For sure.
And, I mean, what is a pen show with no Waffle House?
It's not a pen show I want to be at.
Exactly. So there you go. And I know Indianapolis has a strong Waffle House game, so bring it.
Yeah, I like that. I like the coordinated event idea, like the adjacent. I think that's a great idea.
It's one of those things. I mean, the more inclusive you make events, the better they become. Because even if a person can't make every panel they want to make, or even if they can't see every product they want to see, that drives the desire for them to come back next year.
Sure.
And that drives the desire for them to look on their own in the meantime. And that's really what a convention or a show should be about, is driving that desire and driving that willingness to go find that thing you're missing on your own, and making friendships and longtime contacts that'll help spend your money for you.
Gosh, yes.
Yes, if you only knew how much your Slack channel affected my wallet, Brad. Yes, you, sir,
about that.
Are a very evil person.
I get emails about that.
Well, they better be good emails, because honestly, the community you've helped build is amazing. And I mean, I know that you're not the one building it, but you did give a place to start. And every crazy community of people has to have that one place. And we wouldn't have people like Tony if you hadn't created some random Slack channel and started inviting people in.
Right, for sure. That's my biggest regret.
Oh, circling back around, being on the podcast with Tony, I want to do that.
Yeah. He'd be a good podcast guest.
I think it would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We've been going now for, we've been going for a while. It's getting close to midnight, so I think I will say adieu for this time. Hopefully it's not another year and a half before we speak again.
No, for sure. For sure.
And it has been a blast. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Next episode is going to be with Figboot. And thank you, Brad, for filling in. It's been a pleasure as always.
Super glad to do it.
Well, I'll have you back. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.